Diann Rust Tierney has been a giant in the U.S. abolition movement. She served as the executive director of the National Coalition to Abolish Death Penalty for 16 years, where she developed, implemented, and coordinated national policy and legal strategy to end the U.S. death penalty. Professor Rust Tierney served as the Robert F. Drinan S.J. Visiting Professor for Human Rights in 2021 and 2022, focusing on the relationship between capital punishment and the legacy of the American caste system, its racial caste system. She's now the Georgetown University Racial Justice Institute Executive Director and Adjunct Professor of Law. As a Georgetown Law Human Rights Institute Fellow, she teaches a seminar on human rights advocacy, lessons learned from the campaign to end the death penalty. Professor Rust Tierney has testified before Congress and spoken extensively on the death penalty, on race, women's rights, policy advocacy, and human and civil rights campaigns. It is my pleasure to present the Death Penalty Focus Abolition Award to my esteemed friend, Diann Rust Tierney.
I want to thank Mike for that lovely introduction. I first met Mike personally many years ago when he was serving on the board of an organization called the Virginia Coalition on Jails and Prisons. I say I met him personally because by then I was always a staunch fan of his, but that was my first opportunity to meet him in person because I was already a fan of his work as an actor and a director, raising some of the most profound questions of life and death, prejudice and hatred, war and senseless violence, and what it means to build a community of love and trust in the midst of destruction. So I was not surprised to find him grappling with these same issues with the Virginia Coalition on Jails and Prisons, and I'm not surprised to find him here. I'm grateful. I want to thank the Death Penalty Focus Board. This board is made up of extraordinarily talented, dedicated, and resourceful people. You are all superstars, and it's an honor to be with you. I want to acknowledge the Death Penalty Focus team, Yoko and Mary Kate. For years, I thought Death Penalty Focus must have dozens of people working there based on the quality and quantity of the work and the impact and reach of the organization. I was shocked and humbled to find that while the numbers of staff may wane and ebb depending upon the campaign, it was always a small nucleus of dedicated souls working at a very high level. So thank you for your work. I also want to honor the people that have helped me navigate this work with honesty, selflessness, loyalty to the mission and to me. Among those, I count former board members, friends, shout out to my friends at Sola Sisters. You have been a source of inspiration, joy, support, fun, and encouragement. I want to call out specifically Lori Box, Chris Rutledge, Gregory Joseph, and Jim Dick. These people dedicated themselves to this work as staff members, legal counsel, and board members of the National Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. Thank you all for being my friend. Finally, I want to thank my family. All of you who do this work know we could not do this without the love and support of our families and the sacrifices that our families make while we do this work. We bring this work home. We are sometimes consumed by it. We are obsessed by the high stakes of losing. My family has been a great source of love and support, and my sons, Gabriel and Aaron, have grown to be amazing, compassionate, and thoughtful young men. They are among my biggest cheerleaders, and now, as they are grown, my most trusted advisors. At a time like this, when we look back on our work, I want to take a few minutes to talk about where we've been and what I think the work going forward is. We've made enormous progress, as you've heard, pushing back against capital punishment, reducing the number of killing states, the number of death sentences and executions, and reducing public support for the death penalty significantly. More people are connecting the dots between the death penalty and the carceral state and the failure to make investments in people that will create safe, healthy, and thriving communities. More people are making the connection between the failure to really care for victims of violence and to see and provide help for all victims, and seeing the contrast between what we've given victims and the empty promise of capital punishment. The next stage of work will require us to acknowledge the role that the death penalty has played historically in supporting a racial hierarchy of injustice. Legal scholars Carroll and Jordan Steiker write, one of the functions of the death penalty was to create race, to segregate the myriad social positions of the New World into hard and fast categories of white and black, free and enslaved. And so our work going forward must include a recognition of this history and a commitment to the larger struggle of dismantling structural racism and inequality. In short, we must become anti-racist as well. The next stage of the work will require us to interrogate the connections between efforts to ban history and whole categories of people, and to create a patchwork of rights among states and the struggle against the death penalty. The work ahead is to see the connection between economic justice, climate justice, community empowerment, housing justice, and education. The work ahead is to connect the dots between the death penalty and the struggle to end gun violence. Our efforts to end capital punishment once and for all are inextricably linked to the struggle to protect and defend our multiracial democracy. Our efforts are connected to the work of ensuring that the once marginalized voices are no longer left out of the discussion. The work ahead is the work of building Dr. King's beloved community, where we respond to suffering not by imposing more suffering, but by leading with the impulse to heal. I want to end by sharing the gift of this award with all of you. None of us does this work for the recognition or the glamour of it. We do it because in this practice of capital punishment ignites a moral rage in us, a fire in the belly that will not be quenched without our actions. This work is hard and even lonely. So tonight is an opportunity to congratulate yourselves and validate the work you are doing, to remind you that you are right. You are right. The death penalty is wrong. Full stop. Tonight, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to celebrate you and your work. I thank you, and I am deeply honored to be in your company.